So I was replaying one of my favorite PS1 games of all time, a game which now has fallen into the realms of relative obscurity.
This is where I live, little man.
And it got me thinking, if ever Mission Impossible franchise decided to make a video game, this is how I imagined they would do it. What's not in here? Jumping from airplanes? Check. Running over trains? Check. Rescuing friends from certain death?
Gregorov!
Check. Evil organization creating deadly bioweapons? A virus to control the world? Hey, what's wrong with you, editor? Keep your weird theories to yourself. And to save the day, our hero must go rogue, just like Ethan Hunt. It's a roller coaster ride from beginning to end. So sit back and relax while we take a ride back in time and revisit this forgotten gem from the golden era of gaming. Now before we proceed, I must confess, I am biased. Well, I was introduced to the franchise through Syphon Filter-2, so I absolutely adore Part 2 more than the original. Syphon Filter was developed by a relatively inexperienced studio with the intention of creating a new super spy thriller that contained elements of stealth action and puzzle solving. The idea originally came from a producer at Sony's then 989 Studios who had written a one-page synopsis that he called Syphon Filter. It was to be a stealth action game that focused heavily on weapons, gadgets and stealth. Studio had no prior experience with a game of this magnitude, but they possessed the technology and game engine, and so they decided to put faith in creating what was envisioned. The development of the first game underwent a lot of changes and the game was nearly canned several times. But when the game finally launched, it ended up becoming an instant hit, surpassing everyone's expectations.
Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
Moving on, now unlike the development of the first game, for the sequel, devs had a clear vision of what the game would be like. John Garvin wrote the entire screenplay and then, together with Richard Hamm, they revisited the second half of the game and added espionage and stealth to the final parts of the game. Back then, Syphon Filter-2 got panned by critics for having the same level design and gameplay as that of the original.
Hey, that's not part of the plan. I'm coming down.
Everyone acknowledged that the game was a good iteration for Syphon Filter franchise, with the sequel improving upon almost all the parameters of the original. Everything from graphics, gameplay, level design seemed more polished, but even after that, critics went ahead to bash the game for lack of originality. Their loss, I'd say.
Let me go check on Leon Singh first.
No. Morgan said to come now.
Because from a fan's perspective, it's a very solid game, something that holds out even to this day. The game manages to successfully achieve the goal of the devs of making the player feel like a super spy. As already discussed, Syphon Filter-2 is more polished than the original game in every department. Controls are the same, but level design and enemy placement has been tweaked. In the first game, maybe due to time constraints, it always feels that there are no more than 3 enemies on the screen at a time. This anomaly has been fixed in this iteration of the game. In the very first mission, game pits you against a bunch of enemies. It's a surprise attack where Gabe gets ambushed from all sides and must either retreat or fight back, and all this happens in the opening few minutes of the game.
Almighty push!
Then Almighty Air Taser has been removed from most missions, forcing players to use other weapons. Further, graphics have also been improved a bit and characters no longer look like their faces pasted on models. The difficulty has also been amped up from the first iteration of the game, and enemies will no longer keel over that easily. Some will also go for headshots, forcing the player to either take evasive action or complete the fight with quick reflexes, which generally would involve preempting the enemy strike and taking them out via manual headshots.
Damn it, they've all got flak jackets. I hope you've got a plan.
Then every level requires player to act in a completely different way, solve a different set of tasks, or kill someone in an entirely new fashion.
There's no escape, Logan. Come out with your hands in the air.
It will make you think out of the box, and most of the times you will find
No matter what happens, stick to the plan. Find some explosives.
that brute force is not the right answer. Further, the game won't tell you what to do up front.
I wish it were that easy, Gabe. The lab is sealed, so you gotta find another way in.
Like its predecessor, the hints are given in these loading screens and sometimes through cutscenes, making sure that you use this knowledge for solving problems that lies in front of you. It was a clever mechanic that kept players engaged even during loading screens. For a game appearing on PS1, gameplay feels revolutionary for its time, and a lot of credit needs to be attributed to the game's unique control scheme. Richard Hamm said in an interview that he was fascinated by Tomb Raider demo way back in 1995, but he did not like the way that game handled its aiming system. So a new refined target system was designed for Syphon Filter game, but there's also an option for manual aim which really comes in handy when we get to encounter these flak jacket guys or these harder AI enemies who can take out the player with headshots. Further, most of the environmental items can either be blown up or be used to your advantage, which is something unreal for a game from PS1 era. I mean, there's a complete section here where we have to shoot these street lights for completing the mission. And then we have some modern game developers who gave us this masterpiece.
Get down!
Syphon Filter-2 also introduced the headshot danger mechanic, making player aware of snipers and other head-aiming enemies.
Here's what we're gonna do. You give me some cover fire while I move around to flank them. I'll take him from the south and signal you when it's clear. Understood?
Then the game implemented locational damage. That is, targeting weak points on armored foes would result in a kill. And yes, I'm still talking about a game from PS1 era. It's one of the greatest PS1 stealth action games of all time, and one that is still fun to play even today. Compared to the modern games, Syphon Filter-2 comes off rather hard and the player is forced to repeat the same segment again and again until they manage to get a grip on its controls. Dying multiple times made me realize that this is not 2001 and I'm horribly out of touch with the controls of the game. Enemies had a field day with me. Game also introduced a split-screen multiplayer at a time when online multiplayer was still in its nascent stages.
I cannot answer any more questions at this time.
The entire area has been closed off amid reports of possible contamination.
In the first game, Gabe and Leon are sent by the US government to investigate a terrorist group which plans to unleash Syphon Filter virus. The virus selectively targets victims based on genetic markers, making it a perfect bioweapon.
Imagine a weapon that could target specific demographics, ethnic groups, that could wipe out whole continents except for those chosen to survive.
The duo uncovers a conspiracy involving corrupt officials, shadowy organizations, including the agency itself. Leon gets captured and also contracts the Syphon Filter virus. Part 2 picks up right from where the first game ended, with Gabe leaving Kazakhstan with his partners on his way to the US. During midway, the flight gets intercepted and Gabe has to improvise to stay alive.
Teresa, I'm not gonna need your landing strip after all. Coming down the hard way.
The game is action-packed and the first mission sets the bar for the things to follow.
Teresa, I made it.
Is there ever any doubt?
There's a section near the end where we must save our fellow survivors pinned down by these snipers. We get to witness the harder AI of the game in action right from the get-go, as these snipers are all wearing flak jackets, meaning they cannot be killed easily by auto-aiming. Further, these snipers are going for your head, and if you stick your head out for too long, it results in Gabe being killed, resulting in game over. This was completely different approach to the combat by the devs, as in the first game, difficult enemies were introduced much later in the game.
Hey Carter, I'm on at 5. Buzz me in, would you?
So in the second mission, we get to play as Leon, who has been captured at a military airbase. Now I remember back then, when I first played the game, how I hated this mission. But as the years went by, it grew on me and I realized how beautifully crafted this mission is. It's fun to sneak around and complete objectives without getting caught, although that is the only option you have, since getting seen will instantly result in game over. The whole atmosphere atmosphere further gets amped by this surreal musical score, which manages to give off a feeling of unease, suspense, and discomfort. Next few missions, the game gets split into two parts, where in one corner we take control of Gabe, who's trying to find a way out of the mountains, and also the discs containing data on Syphon Filter virus. And on the other side, we witness Leon's journey, who is also trying to get out of the agency airbase, all the while fighting with the after effects of the virus.
You tell me where Morgan is taking that plasma.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm dying, Holman!
Another cool stealth mission follows, where we get some answers and Leon finds an improvised exit out of the military complex.
Logan! Looking for these?
Damn it!
All of this culminates into Gabe confronting this guy, and in a cool shootout, kills him to retrieve the discs.
We were right. The NSA has shut down the entire exposition center. They're using regular army to box the place up. They've got guards patrolling everywhere. I'll have to be careful.
The second half of the mission starts with the infiltration in Expo Center. This mission makes a comeback from the first game, but this time we must maintain a certain degree of stealth and must not harm the GIs patrolling the area, which does present some challenges, as if spotted, you will find that these GIs are rather trigger happy.
Give yourself up, Logan. Stevens wants you to come in. He wants to sit down and discuss things with you and Leon Zink.
Game also has these boss battles in between levels where the objective is to kill the boss, but it's not that straightforward. Logan and Teresa, in their quest of trying to find a cure for the virus, end up on the streets of Moscow. So in the next mission, we see Leon chasing after her old friend Gregorov.
I've got Gregorov.
Gabe, I know why Gregorov's been acting so strange.
And after all that effort,
This isn't Yuri Gregorov.
we find out that he's just an imposter and the real guy is held captive behind bars.
He has finally broken. Grigoriev is being held at point 36.
And on top of that, he's going to be executed really soon. So in one frantic mission that feels like it's straight out of a Hollywood movie, Leon must infiltrate the prison and get Gregorov out before he's executed. I mean, it's one hell of a mission. Infiltration part is complete stealth, and by the time we get to our
I
target,
hear a lot of action on the other side of that door.
a full-scale riot engulfs the prison, making up for one hell of an escape.
Snipers! Pull back! Teresa, I'm clear.
After freeing Gregorov, we are introduced hands down to one of the best missions of the game, infiltrating the agency biolab. Gabe somehow manages to infiltrate the agency biolab as a scientist. This mission, if you haven't already guessed it, is also a stealth mission, but with a twist. Unlike previous stealth missions, Gabe can be seen by other guards or scientists. However, if Gabe gets too close to them, they will recognize him and immediately sound the alarm.
Alert! We have an intruder!
Our main objective here is to infiltrate agency's biolab and synthesize a vaccine for Leon. It's a long mission, and if you're playing it for the first time, you will have a hard time trying to figure out the correct path, which will result in lots and lots of retries, but it's a treat when things go right. The immediate mission following this one involves escaping from the biolab while all the guards are on high alert. This is one mission where I think devs kind of went overboard. It's a straightforward, very hard mission. You cannot shoot any of the guards as they are wearing full body armor, impervious to your weapons. Only option is using this grenade launcher, which also is in short supply.
Get this door open now!
Further, game won't tell you which path needs to be taken, resulting in lots of deaths and retries until you find the right way. After a few filler missions, game will culminate into one big finale, with you uncovering a lot of agency secrets, betrayals, and this last stand of a boss fight. I find music of the game to be a huge leap when compared to the first game. It's fast paced for those action sequences and slow and tense for stealthier missions. game's music really does a stupendous job in adding that extra edge to the game. Almost every weapon that is available in the game is adequate to complete the job. Game also does a great job in providing limited ammo for the more powerful weapons, making sure that game remains balanced. Further, going off the beaten path rewards players with health or ammo caches, or sometimes with bonus weapons, which is quite an achievement for a game from 2000s, showing how devs added hidden stuff even to a linear game.
Commander, Stevens wants me to personally thank you for the job you've done here.
Wait a minute!
Devs were hugely in favor of using in-game cinematics to improve the overall presentation and furthering the story component of the game. They had a limited budget, but that didn't stop them from using lots and lots of cutscene in the game. These are good for most part, but lack of budget does kind of show how certain scenes are enacted and faces of the characters are still not that clear. Stealth, over-the-top action, intuitive gameplay, and the fact that the game does not take itself too seriously makes the replays of the game rather fun. Since the game is old and if you know what you're doing, in certain sections of the game, rules of engagement can be modified to the player's advantage. Split-screen multiplayer was also a thing in those days, and fun little way to experience the game with your buddies. Although I love the stealth sections of the game, but there are times when I felt that certain stealth mechanics are questionable to say the least. Then enemies have a weird bug, something that has to do with their line of sight or draw distance of the game. They will just ignore you sometimes and on others shoot you from the same distance. Then there are problems with the way game presents difficulty. It scales up from normal to flat out batshit crazy. Some missions in the game are designed in a way that you would be forced to die since the game won't tell you where you need to go. So your only option left is to figure out the way by trying different routes. And in this mission where enemies are wearing full body armor, it becomes rather tedious. You take one wrong turn and boom, you're dead, when no hand holding kind of becomes a pain in the ass.
You were the best, Logan, but you let that partner of yours get under your skin.
Then after all these years, I had forgotten all about the last encounter. So when I finally got there, I got the taste of things to come firsthand. You cannot kill this guy by any means whatsoever, since he's wearing full body armor. Can't use grenade launcher as this can destroy your escape helicopter. And on top of that, game won't tell you what needs to be done. So I had to die a few times before I realized what needed to be done. So yeah, this made the game unnecessarily frustrating, but then this was the norm back then. Problems were presented to you and it was expected that you'd be spending some time to get through them. Moreover, without social media and these 1-minute reels, people had more patience back then.
Wait till the camera turns off and then make your move before it comes back on.
Got it.
If you love retro spy games, Syphon Filter-2 offers a gritty, gadget-filled time capsule of the early 2000s gaming. Its blend of stealth, conspiracy and over-the-top action makes it a cult classic worth revisiting. In today's world, where almost every other game is getting remastered or remade in some shape or form, it's one game I would definitely like to see being remade. The game was class apart from the shooters of its time, and I still feel there's a case to be made here for reviving this dead franchise for the newer consoles. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching.